I want to get this out of the way first. If you have never played Mass Effect before, I highly recommend this game. While I am going to bring up some criticisms about it, it still does not ruin the experience, and you should still definitely experience the Mass Effect trilogy. Get the Legendary Edition for sure. And if you want to experience Mass Effect again, this game is worth the purchase. It, from what I've experienced so far, is still the best way to play the Mass Effect trilogy. With that being said though, I do have some raw thoughts about this game after playing the first mission on Eden Prime. So here is what I think of Mass Effect Legendary Edition. When starting the game, I was expecting to feel that Mass Effect magic, hearing that music, watching Shepard walk down through the Normandy's halls. I was expecting to feel some nostalgia, some of that special joy, that special something Mass Effect gives. But for some reason, starting the game, I didn't feel anything. I didn't feel any of that. And I think it was because my expectations might have been a little too high. I was expecting to be blown away seeing this game. I was expecting it to feel very fresh. But looking at the graphics, it did not blow me away. In fact, it didn't even seem like that big of an upgrade. Maybe it's because I started playing Mass Effect again 2 years ago using a updated HD graphics mod. And to me, playing this game barely looked like an upgrade from that HD graphics mod, so that might have taken away from my experience from it. But what pulled me out even more was seeing the lip syncing on these characters.
What do you think, Commander? We won't be staying on Eden Prime too long, will we? I'm itching for some real action.
I sincerely hope you're kidding, Corporal. Your real action usually ends with me patching up crew members in the infirmary.
I was so distracted watching these people talk, because it was clear that their lips were not matching up at all with what they were saying. It looked like it was just a repetitive talking animation that didn't coincide with any words at all. They just had this talking animation play whenever a character talks. And the game looked like this, and the lip sync was like this 10 years ago when it first came out. I think it came out in 2007. But back then, it didn't even come into my mind. The lip syncing was not distracting at all. When thinking back to the problems of the original Mass Effect, the character's lip syncing is not one of the issues I ordinarily would think of. But I guess gaming has come so far with our lip sync technology that now it is a distraction and does pull you out of the experience seeing the characters not have synced up lip syncing. And then, while this next point will probably not be a problem for a majority of people, it will be a problem for a few because it was a problem for me. Playing this game on an ultra-wide monitor, all the cutscenes got cut down to 16:9, and there was a weird anti-aliasing glitch where the left side would have this weird, like, strange mirror reflection of the right side of the screen if you had anti-aliasing turned on. Now, I was able to fix this by turning anti-aliasing off, and the game did not look worse for it, but it for sure didn't set a good first impression. And the 16:9 cutscenes didn't bother me too badly because by this point we are used to it in games like Horizon, these big console games where the gameplay will take up the whole ultra-wide, but the cutscene will only take up that 16:9 space. So that didn't bother me too much, but that is something I think people should be aware of. So my experience started off pretty disappointing, but then something happened. The Normandy went and landed on Eden Prime, and all of a sudden, as the squad went down the ramp, and as we stood there on Eden Prime for the first time in a decade, all of a sudden that Mass Effect magic came in. The game finally felt like a remaster. The particles were in the air. The game looked gorgeous. I felt fully immersed into this world. I don't know what it was, but the graphics all of a sudden went from like 50 to 100. Landing on Eden Prime blew my mind, and it truly did feel like I was stepping on a new planet not of this world for the very first time. And then we headed into combat, and that felt really enjoyable. I remember playing the first game, and it felt like you had to always be in cover or you would be destroyed. You would have to wait in cover and then wait for your shot. But this time, while cover is still very important, you can now be out of cover, run and gun, and feel like you're actually hitting the enemies, that your reticle is actually on target and hitting them. That was not the case originally, and it felt really good, while at the same time, it still felt like I was playing a different game, felt like I was playing Mass Effect 1. This is not the combat of Mass Effect 2 and 3 or Andromeda. This is a polished version of the Mass Effect 1 combat. So it still feels special and unique and has those more RPG elements than the other games, while at the same time not feeling as clunky or as tedious or as frustrating as it did way back then. And so being there in combat against the Geth in Eden Prime, the Mass Effect magic was back. All those issues I had inside the Normandy that completely took me out of the experience, that ruined my immersion, all of a sudden that was gone. The lighting, the textures, the particles, the combat, and the music, and seeing the familiar enemies again. All of that brought back together the magic. It did feel like I was playing the legendary edition of this game, an upgraded, amazing version of a still amazing story. The Mass Effect magic was still alive. It was incredible how I went from being so not immersed to being fully immersed again. It's crazy how it can go from one way to another. But I think that shows what this legendary edition is. This isn't a new version of the game. This is the same game brought into 2021 with 2021 graphic and control sensibilities. And so that means the fundamental flaws of the original Mass Effect trilogy are still gonna be there, but you won't be distracted by some dated elements, and instead you'll be able to focus on what made Mass Effect great in the first place and experience that joy of Mass Effect that we all experienced last decade. And so those are just some of my raw, unscripted thoughts on Mass Effect Legendary Edition. Like I said at the beginning, if you've never played Mass Effect before, you are missing out. You got to ride in this magical experience. You gotta hop on board. It is so fun. And if you're a returning player, the photo mode, experiencing Eden Prime, I think you'll still be sucked in. There's gonna be those lows like the lip syncing, and some stuff not seeming so upgraded like on the Normandy. But ultimately, the whole Mass Effect experience is still worth playing in 2021, and this is the way to play it. Hope you guys enjoy. Hope you guys have a great adventure. Thanks for watching.